which is one of the keys to success in this life. As Allah said in Surah Al-Asr, when He said that all of humankind is in a state of loss. إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, except for those who believe, وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, and do righteous deeds, وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ, and they advise each other to be truthful in truth. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ, and they advise each other to be patient. Patience. This is key. This is the basis for success. So trials are there to bring out this quality of patience. Key quality for success in this life. And we should know that those who are most righteous receive the greatest amount of trials. As the Prophet ﷺ said, when he was asked by his companions, who receives the most trials in this life? And the Prophet ﷺ said, the prophets. Then those most like them. Then those most like them. Human beings are tested according to the level of their faith. If the individual's faith is firm, his trials increase in severity. And if there's weakness in his faith, he'll be tried accordingly. So the calamities of each and everyone's lives are tailored to their faith. What is needed to increase that faith, to grow in patience? The calamities are there for that. That is the fundamental purpose of calamities in our lives. However, to grasp that, to develop that patience, one has to know that Allah does not burden any soul beyond its capacity. As Allah tells us, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. This is the basic principle. We know that. It means that whatever tragedy comes to us, it is not greater than we can bear. We do not kill ourselves because we can't deal with life. It is too much. We don't support mercy killing because mercy killing is murder. That's what it is. It's just plain out and out murder or suicide. Suicide is forbidden in Islam, just like murder. A person who is suffering, when a person doesn't believe in this world that there is a God, etc., for him or her, this life is about pleasure. We are here to have a good time. So if life is no longer pleasurable, what's the purpose of being here? My life is painful. I may as well end it. That's a whole nother philosophy. This is the way of those who don't believe in God. Islam teaches that calamities, tragedies, are means and ways of purifying the individual of his or her sin. As Prophet ﷺ said, for the believer, if he or she steps on a thorn, that removes from them some sin. If they step on a thorn, it removes from them sin, if they are patient with it. Right? Not if you curse. You step on the thorn and you curse. And this is why, for example, if a person, they're walking and they trip, stumble, you don't laugh at people. You know, this is a tendency amongst us. Somebody stumbles, trips over their feet or whatever, and everybody starts laughing. No. I mean, we should feel sympathetic, and we should again know if that person is patient with that accident or whatever, it's purification. When we meet people who are suffering in illness, etc., this is purification. So we say, as the Prophet ﷺ taught us to say, tuhurun insha'Allah. May this be a source of purification from your sins, insha'Allah. Very, very important concept. I know personally, after I accepted Islam in 1972, and I went down to Jamaica, because that's where I was born, looking to see if there were any Muslims. I went, of course, to see my relatives, try to give Islam to them, those who were still living in Jamaica. And I wanted to see if there were any Muslims down there. So my cousins told me, hey, there's a mosque in downtown Kingston. I said, yeah, take me to it. I went there, and it was this huge structure with this big dome over it. I went close. A Baha'i temple. It wasn't a masjid. They just assumed that if you got a dome on it, it's got to be a mosque, right? But unfortunately, it was a Baha'i temple. So I kept asking around till finally I found a masjid, a little masjid in Spanish Town. And it had been built by this brother who was originally, his foreparents had come there from India. And they had maintained their Islam from the time of slavery on down. And he had set aside a portion of his land and built a masjid there. And from his dealing with other Jamaicans, etc., people impressed by his kindness, his gentleness, they had accepted Islam. He was a little source of a Muslim community right there. But when I came and I met him, he was dying of cancer. His body was cancer-ridden. It had hit, the major organs, and he was suffering. Serious pain. He couldn't make it to the masjid. We would be in the masjid and you'd hear him trying to control it, but it would cause him to scream out. Couldn't control it. Pain was so severe. And at the time, because of course I was a new Muslim, I just accepted Islam, it just seemed, wow, this man had done this good thing, and look how he was going, look what was happening to him. And that remained something that bothered me, how he would be suffering like that. And he had been such a key figure in Islam coming to that area, establishing the masjid. Then later I came to realize the purification of pain. Purification that is there in pain, suffering, in disease, calamity. And I realized then that Allah was purifying this man. As Prophet ﷺ said, when Allah loves his servants, he will put tragedy on that individual so that he or she will leave this life purified of sin. It's a means of purifying them so they come out of this life pure. And this is why we should understand, some of us, when we think about our brother Sheikh Ahmed Didat, who was involved in the da'wah of tackling the Christians. No matter how much we may disagree with his methodology, it may not be that appropriate for giving da'wah on a one-on-one basis, but he was one of the individuals who stood up there and challenged Christianity on the stage. Challenged their leading spokesmen, etc., etc. He was doing his jihad. And then 10 years ago or less, he was struck down by a stroke, which made him a paraplegic. The only thing he could move is his eyelids. Of course, for the Christian evangelists, see, God got him, right? Hey, this is how they looked at it. And of course, we felt, But if we think about it also, this is the trial, this is the test for our brother Ahmed Didat. This is his purification, because he made mistakes like everybody else, and Allah is purifying him as he leaves. He hasn't given up. He still communicates. They devised a setup where they have a computer screen and the keyboard, and his son will move a marker over the keyboard, and when he hits the letter which Ahmed Didat wants, he gives a signal with his eye, whatever, and he presses that key. And he's still writing letters, giving the da'wah, conveying even in that state. So, we should feel happy for him, though it's a tragedy. It is, as I said, a means of purification. And this is the way of the believer. His or her life, as the Prophet ﷺ said, is a blessed thing. all aspects of the believer's life is a blessed thing. And this is only in the case of the true believer. He said, whenever good comes to them, they are thankful to Allah, and Allah rewards them for it. And whenever calamity strikes them, they are patient with Allah, and Allah rewards them for it. This is the case of the true believer. But for the disbeliever, for those who have rejected Allah, then calamity is punishment. It is punishment, because they can't understand why. It's just punishment. For the believer, it is purification, or it is a wake-up call. When you read the reasons why Muslims wake up, you hear of certain brothers or sisters who weren't practicing before, all of a sudden they turn around and they start to practice that deen as best as they could. Oftentimes it's tragedy. Tragedy strikes, calamity strikes, and it's a wake-up call for them. They stop and they think. Or people who are non-Muslims, living that life, and then calamity strikes. It woke them up, and they came back to Allah. So, for the believers, those seeking truth, then it is a reminder, a wake-up call. As Allah said, I will make them taste a lesser punishment before the greater punishment, that perhaps they may return to the right path. This is a mercy from Allah when we get these wake-up calls. But as I said, for the disbeliever it is punishment. As Allah said, let those who contradict His command beware of a trial or a severe punishment. Beware of a trial which will not afflict only the sinful among you, and know that Allah is severe in punishment. And also it is a means of exposing the hypocrites, those who claim to be believers. Allah brings calamity to expose them. Their hypocrisy will be revealed. So you find people who may do, as the Prophet ﷺ said, the deeds of the people of paradise throughout their lives, until they reach only a bow's length away from paradise. Then they start doing the deeds of the people of hell, and they die doing those deeds. These are people who did the deeds of people of paradise out of ritual. They did it because it was the custom, the practice in our area, in our family, whatever, we all did it. But they really didn't believe. So Allah gives them a circumstance where they're going to react and expose their hypocrisy. Either tragedy comes and you see them just drop Islam altogether, finish. Or good times come and they drop Islam altogether, finish. These people, sometimes people, when others are on their deathbed and that person is on his way out of this life, and the Prophet ﷺ said that you should recite to those who are dying, recite to them, have them say La ilaha illallah. Have them say La ilaha illallah.